Again, I appreciate so much of the positive feedback. I appreciate the support, the cash apps, the donations. I appreciate y'all just for commenting on the video, sharing the video, subscribing to the channel. So again, I appreciate every little support. Doesn't matter how big or small, support is support. So moving right along on today's menu, today's recipe, I wanted to do a part 2 segment on being married to a convict. I did an upload, I would say, so I can make sure I have the dates correct for y'all. But I did an upload not too long ago. It was in the beginning of the week, when I discussed women like Nicki Minaj who are married to men that are convicted felons or have committed very serious offenses. As a matter of fact, I did a video yesterday, an upload. Content name was "Being Married to a Man with a Criminal Past Can Affect Your Future." So if you did not check that out already, please be sure that you do. That way it makes more sense to you. You're able to process the content better because it goes in alignment with the content that I'm going to be discussing for today. So basically, this is a part 2 and addition to the part 1, being married to a man with a criminal past can affect your future. And basically it's pertaining to the fact that there are a lot of women out here that are becoming desperate for relationships. So they are willing to take a chance by getting in a marriage or a relationship with a man that is a convicted felon, who has committed felonies and still has a criminal past that still and will forever affect his future, being able to be a modern citizen to society. And it's very important that women understand the severity of getting involved with the man that has a criminal record. It does not matter how much money you have. It does not matter how much college degrees. Does not matter how much connections you got. There's a lot of things that you will be restricted from being able to do when it comes to marrying a convicted felon. So basically, as I stated before, my last content when I talked about Nicki Minaj making the decision to not only marry but to also have a child from a man, Mr. Kenneth Pretty Boy Pedophile Petty, who has to register as a registered sex offender for the rest of his life. As I stated before, if you caught my last upload, I discussed the different levels of being a registered sex offender. You got your level 1, which is very low level. Registered sex offenders that are low level 1, those are basically probably like peeping toms, indecent exposure, things like that, showing a penis to an underage child, but there was no penetration, no contact, anything of that nature. And as long as it's an offense that kind of happened once, and depending on the circumstances, if the individual was drunk, what was the intent, things of that nature, can consider them a level 1, which is really a low risk. But in other cases, like Mr. Petty, he's considered a level 2. Level 2 registered sex offenders and level 3 registered sex offenders are more of a high-risk threat to the safety of children and women. So level 2 is more of the they're like an intermediate, meaning they're not a high risk threat, but at the same time they're not a low level threat. So basically the offender is very capable of reoffending this offense again if put in a situation. Basically that's what it says if you're level 2, meaning that you're not an extreme threat, but we believe that you will do it again, especially if you already have a history of other criminal offenses, even if you never touched a child before. There's so many different factors that tie into this, because again, you just don't have to be a habitual sex offender. Okay, you don't have to be an habitual sex offender. You could have a criminal history just on the strength of committing other offenses. Like you may have a domestic violence, Has nothing to do. That's a separate crime from being from having a charge as far as a child molestation charge or auto theft. Basically that just basically states that you have a problem abiding by the law. So they can take other laws that you have committed in conjunction and consider you a threat, even though you have a separate offense for child abuse or child molestation or child sexual assault. They can put all of that together, even though it is a separate criminal charge, but basically it displays your character, that you are a threat to society. We cannot trust you out here amongst women and amongst children. You are a threat. You are like a safety hazard. Kenneth Pedophile Petty is a safety hazard. Okay, now like I stated, you have your level 3. Level 3 is way more extreme than a level 2. Level 3 registered sex offenders, basically they cannot be left alone under no circumstances with children. None whatsoever. Meaning that this person has proven they have committed this offense either several times over the years with one child, or they have committed the offense with several children. Okay, you have some men that are mentally sick, some men that just mentally are damaged to the point to where they can't be rehabilitated. I really don't think a sexual offender can be rehabilitated. I think maybe a crackhead, I think maybe an alcoholic. I don't think you can rehabilitate a man from not touching children, from not putting his penis in children, especially if he has already done it once, and especially if he has done it several times and he has a history of touching other people's children. There's no rehabilitation for that. There's no cure, there's no medicine. There's nothing that can be done to help a man that has child predator tendencies. There is nothing you can do to fix an individual that has this type of problem. Okay? Because we're not going to sugarcoat it and condone it and say it's a sickness, it's an illness. That's the problem. We're giving men with these type of issues, and women, because like I said, you got some females that are also registered sex offenders, but we're trying to make it seem like it's an illness that can't be helped, like we're helpless, like a child, basically like a child predator. He can't help being a child predator. That's why I don't like labels like illness or sickness. You're just a sick bastard. You're not sick because you were sick, and if you're so sick, why were you hiding it? Why were you tiptoeing and sneaking in that child's room 2, 3, 4 in the morning? You're not that kind of crazy. You got people that want to be convenient crazy. They want to be crazy when it conveniences them. Okay? But again, being a registered sex offender is not something that you can just simply label and think you could just call it for what it is and not really think that it is a severe issue. Most sex offenders understand that certain acts such as rape and child molestation are illegal and harmful to others, but they commit these crimes anyway. They do so mainly because of pro-offending attitudes or cognitive distortions. Sex offenders tell themselves and others that this behavior is not really harmful. They may claim that the victim enjoyed or wanted the behavior or initiated the sexual contact, or that women are merely sex objects who deserve mistreatment. The distorted self-talk gives offenders permission to do something they know is wrong. It prevents them from feeling bad about it, doing it. Basically, they have learned how to justify, sexual misconduct They have learned how to justify it. They have learned how to reason with it. They have learned how to make excuses for it. So I want us to go into this a little bit more further. I wanted to talk about this child predator behavior. And that way, once you get a better general idea of the psyche of a sexual predator or a sexual offender, it will tie into why the law is so strict and stern, and they do not allow these guys to have any breaks. They do not give them any mercy or any sympathy or empathy. And this is for women to be cautious of, and that's why women need to stop idolizing these celebrity relationships. Just because Nicki Minaj is this rap star, just this phenomenal rap star, she did not make a wise decision when she decided to have a child and be married with the man that has a registered sex offender, that has to register as a sex offender, and he has a criminal history of being a registered sex offender. I don't care if he was 15, 16 years old at the time and his victim was 15, or he was 16 and the victim was 15, whatever the case was. This lets you know that this is a part of his character. Not only he has an issue with being a sexual offender, he's committed other criminal offenses, which shows that this man unfortunately has a lot of criminal tendencies. He, of course, he's in a situation now where he does not have to commit crimes because he's with a woman that's a multi-millionaire. He may not have to steal now. He may not have to go shooting and killing up people now. You know, he's sitting in the better positions, but it does not take away from his character. And it does not state that because he's not doing it now, he does not have the tendency to reoffend or repeat those same behaviors. You know, it can happen whether if it's 20 years down the line, 15 years down the line. You can never predict the behavior of a registered sex offender. So basically, you know, most of these sexual offenders that use cognitive distortions, meaning that, you know, they have basically convinced themselves that the person wanted it or the person was asking for it. The reason why they use those cognitive distortions is to avoid feeling guilty about what they are doing. In other words, if they have already put in their mind this person wanted it, even though it was a child, even though that child is not mature enough to really voice and say what they want and whatnot, you know, they have already avoided not having to take accountability for it. For example, someone may make excuses for driving too fast or for cheating on a diet. However, these types of distortions are much different from those used by sex offenders. Self-statements that condone sex offending behaviors increase the chances that someone will commit these crimes, and also increases the risk that the person will re-offend. In other words, because they have not taken accountability, they have learned to make excuses for it, they have learned to justify it and condone it. Most likely they can repeat it again. You know, again, Nicki Minaj has made excuses for her husband. Well, he was young at the time, he didn't know any better. That's the last thing you want to do, is help a sex offender justify his actions for committing a sexual crime towards someone that's underage. Never help a sex offender reason with his sex offending. Again, I don't care if it was 20, 30 years ago. It was wrong then, it's wrong now, and it'll be wrong 20 years from now. It's not going to change that. Offenders often lack empathy or the ability to feel what another person may be feeling. Some offenders enjoy dominating and controlling their victims. Others seek to harm or terrorize. So basically, sex offending has become like a sick thrill. For a lot of these sex offenders, these predators, these pookie predators, that's what I'm gonna call them. These pookie predators, they have basically used sex offending as a tool to dominate and control their victims. As the stating goes, a person who is out of control, who feels like they have lost control, they have to find a way to gain control. So because these pookie predators already have mentally lost control. They feel like the only way they can gain it is by controlling the victim, or just harming and terrorizing. It's like a sick thrill. Like you got some people that are pyromaniacs. They love to set things on fire because something about seeing fires burn things down, it stimulates them. You have some people who love to harm animals. Something about seeing an animal in pain, seeing animal in agony, it gives them a sick thrill. It gives them relief to see somebody in pain. You got some sex offenders. They are aroused at torturing and overly dominating the victim. It just turns them on in a sick, twisted, undermined way. In research about sex offenders, lack of healthy coping skills is often cited. Some offenders have difficulty managing their emotions appropriately. Some are highly impulsive and do not think about the consequences before they act. Others plan, scheme, and premeditate before acting. So there's different levels of being a sex offender. Some of them have urges. You know, they just have the urge, I want to touch somebody's child. Here that somebody's child is outside playing, you know, playing ball, being a child, not thinking of no cares of the world, and they decide to go take this child out their yard, take the child in an unknown location, rape, torture, molest a child on a whim. Because again, the thrill of it, it's the sick thrill that arouses them. Others, they're a little bit more strategic. They want the child to be comfortable. They'll buy the child things, or older man, if it's a younger underage female who he wants to sexually have selfishly for himself, he's going to make sure he weans himself on her. He'll buy her things, he'll make her feel comfortable, you know, he'll tell her how pretty she is. He basically starts grooming his victim. You have a lot of these pooky predators that will groom their victim, make the victim feel comfortable, and kind of like you know, that's what Kenneth Petty did with his situation. And I already explained all of the dynamics of what he did, and I don't want to repeat all of that, so you have to go check out my upload that I told y'all about earlier, being married to a convict or whatever. So just look into that, and I've already explained all the elements. And basically the victim evidently felt comfortable with him, for her to allow him to get that close, for him to have the advantage to be able to do what he did. She felt comfortable with him. A lot of victims in most cases feel comfortable with their sexual offender, because that sex offender could be 9 times out of 10 a relative, an uncle, or somebody they know, their mom or boyfriend, or you know, a neighbor, or somebody who they just so happen to like, you know, or have a mild crush on. You know, sometimes young women, they don't know any better. Sometimes they'll have a crush on older men, and it's an innocent thing, but these older men, especially these pooky predators, they'll play on that. If they feel like a young lady has interest, instead of him, you know, being a man and not falling prey to her, or not trying to cause the young woman to fall prey to them, you know, they will entertain it. They will, you know, put themselves in a compromising position, knowing they're weak-minded, knowing they cannot be in the presence of a young woman and not want to have sex with her, knowing they're basically, you know, mentally playing mind games with themselves, you know. And next thing you notice, these urges take over to where they just have no control. They pulling down their pants and they having sex with these young girls, because lust is very spontaneous. Lust is very greedy. When you're lusting for something, you don't really give it no thought. You don't really take your time. You go right in and you'll deal with the consequences later, no matter how severe and bad the outcome may be. Also, research suggests that sex offenders often engage in other defiant sexual behaviors and interpersonal crimes, and the sexual deviancy often begins in mid to late adolescence. Many predators may have been sexually abused themselves. Now, back to talking about Nicki Minaj's husband. I mentioned earlier, this is when you become a high factor as a sex offender, when you have committed other crimes. This man has already committed other crimes. He's been in prison the majority of his life for all type of offenses. So most sexual offenders, they just don't commit one type of crime. They have committed several other crimes other than one that you may very well know them for. Like I said, we know about Nicki Minaj's husband with the being a registered sex offender from the 15-year-old or whatever that he was dealing with. He also had other crimes back in 1995. Okay, no, that was when he committed the rape in 1995, which is what caused him not to become a registered sex offender. But even with that, he later pleaded guilty to manslaughter charges in 2006 following gunfire that resulted in the death of Lamont Robinson in 2002. He also reported Petty had been on a supervised release program from 2013 to 2018 after serving 7 years behind bars. The New York State Department labels Petty, as I told y'all before, as a level 2 sex offender, which deems him of having a moderate risk of repeating offense. So in other words, they feel like he will reoffend, because if they did not feel like he would reoffend, he would be a level 1. This all stems from the 95 rape conviction of 16-year-old, where he allegedly used a knife, cutting instruments, or sorts to coerce her into sex. He was untimely sentenced to 18 to 54 months in prison. But of course, Nicki defended it. He was 15, she was 16 in a relationship. Okay. He's 42 years old. His rap sheet has him booked with the date of birth of April 7th, 1978. Him and Nicki did marry back in 2019. So as I stated, most sex offenders, they have committed other offenses. And in many cases, they probably have been experienced being sexually abused themselves. We don't know that. I don't want to say that for sure or not. But it's a probability. We never know. It's something he probably could have experienced himself as a child, but it still does not condone him from being a registered sex offender. Sexual predators are adapting and evolving every day. They're getting better at falling through the cracks and blending in with society. So you really cannot tell. Like the guy who molested his, who raped and killed his child. Let's see. I can't think of that other man's name, but he looked like this high value man. He was well dressed. I mean, he played the part. He didn't look like a man that would commit such a heinous offense. Matter of fact, yep, his name was Austin Stevens. Pennsylvania father arrested for raping and killing his 10-month-old daughter, allegedly waiting an hour to call the cops as he searched terms like "my baby isn't breathing." He was charged with involuntarily defiant sexual intercourse, rape of a child, aggravated assault, aggravated indecent assault, endangering the welfare of a child, and other offenses. So, like I said, and he was a well-dressed man, had on a suit, looked very handsome, did not look like the type of man that would commit that offense. And that is what these sexual offenders do. Had Nicki Minaj's husband not been broadcasted, nobody would have had a clue. Everybody would have just thought he was this regular thug. Nobody would have thought he had such a bad history of, committing the offenses he committed. Looks are very deceiving. And this is the reason why a lot of these sexual offenders, these spooky predators, are falling through the cracks and blending in with society. You cannot tell. That's why as women, you cannot be desperate. You cannot be thirsty. You have to do your research. Check your local registered sex offender website in your county. It could be your next door neighbor. It could be the man you sleeping next to every night who never even shared with you and been honest with you and told you he is a registered sex offender. Some of them will play the part forever. Most offenders will identify the potential victim well before committing a sexual offense. Offenders use sexual fantasies to rehearse possible offending scenarios. The potential victim is selected based on their vulnerability and accessibility, and because the offender sees an opportunity to offend without getting caught. That's why vigilance and being good wingmen are so important. So for anybody who has need any more information and have any more interest in learning about unethical sexual offending behavior, you can contact your local sexual assault response coordinator, and they will definitely give you more information. Now, I wanted to go back into this being married to a convict. In this case, we're more so talking about being married to a sex offender and the special conditions of supervision. Basically, I did not break this down as thoroughly on the last upload that I did. I wanted to go a little more detailed. I want to break down the elements a little bit more because I need women to understand that you do not need to idolize these red carpet relationships. Nikki made a very fatal mistake when she decided to get married and have a child from a man that has a history of committing a sexual crime, and he has to register as a sexual offender for the rest of his life. So while all these barbs and everybody who's up here co-signing and giving her all these props and everything, I want y'all to really understand what she has to go through being with this type of man, because I don't need monkey see, monkey do. A lot of us as women, sometimes we see another woman that makes a fuckery decision and we feel like, well, she survived it, she's making it, they're doing fine, then we want to do it. And as I stated, black women, there's no more room for error. Women, period, of any color. You know, you still have to be very careful. But more so, I'm pertaining to black women, being that I am a black woman, and I need sisters to get their shit together. So we want to talk about its different special conditions of supervision that a registered sex offender has to go through in the event you want to marry one and have a child from one. The first condition is offenders shall have no contact whatsoever directly in person or indirectly through any means of communication or through employment, volunteer activity, or otherwise with any children under the age of 18, including your own children, nor with any person unable to give consent because of mental or emotional limitations. Now, let me start from there. This is how deep this can get. Now, I don't know what the future holds for Nicki Minaj, being that she had a child from him. I don't know how strict the New York laws are as far as allowing him to have contact. It may be different because the baby is a male. So she probably got spared on that. But even then, a child is still a child. There's nowhere in the law where it says, well, we'll make an exception if it's a male. Because we all know young males, male toddlers have gotten raped. They're no more exempt. Their safety is no more less exempt than a toddler female or an underage female. Okay, so basically one of the conditions are they cannot be employed or basically do any type of volunteer activities when there are children under the age of 18, even their own children are involved. They definitely cannot be around children that have mental or emotional limitations, like children that are oh my god, they have the different mental conditions. Oh, I know it's at the tip of my tongue. Tony Braxton's son. Autism. They can't have autism. They can't be mentally retarded to where they're not capable of defending themselves, because these pookie predators will take full advantage. And so they definitely cannot be around anybody that's under 18, their own children, are incapable or mentally or emotionally incapable. If the offender has incidental contact with children, the offender will be civil and courteous to the child and immediately remove himself or herself from the situation. So for instance, let's say if Kenneth Petty is in his multi-million mansion with Nicki Minaj, and her nieces or her nephew wants to come over, he has to exit the premise. He cannot be there. This is how deep this shit is. And that's why I'm so tired of black women being blindfolded and idolizing and wanting to defend somebody's husband, not understanding all the type of restrictions he placed on his life based on his criminal activities. In other words, he cannot be around children. If a child comes around him, he has to exit the stage. There ain't no, oh, well, the child came in, I didn't know. If a child missing comes in there, all right, let's say Nicki Minaj's niece and nephew coming to visit and hang out with Auntie Nikki, and his probation officer comes up there, and finds out there's a child in there, he's going to get arrested immediately. It's not going to matter that he didn't know that child was coming over. It's not going to matter. It is not going to matter. This shit gets deep. It gets real, y'all. He got to remove himself. It does not matter. The offender shall discuss the contact at his or her next meeting with the community supervision officer. In other words, they're going to have to explain. He's going to have to explain. He's going to have to tell. Even if a child comes around him, he has to explain it. Even if he did not know, even if it was an accident, if a child come around him, he got to call his probation officer, parole officer immediately. Hey, Nikki's, my wife, niece, nephew was just here. I didn't know they was going to be here. Just letting you know I am leaving right now. I will be back before curfew. I'm not going to be far or whatever. That's just how deep it is. He cannot be around anybody's child by accident, not on purpose, none of that. Next condition is the offender shall not reside with any child under the age of 18, including his or her own children, unless improved in advance in writing by the court. Now, I don't know if Miss Petty, and I'm sure with her money, she's probably taken those measures to get approved. Evidently, because I didn't hear anything about pedophile Pookie Petty having to leave the residence, having to leave his home. So for now, and because it varies state by state, it probably varies depending on the circumstances. And because he has other children, they probably interviewed the mothers of those children and asked did they ever felt like Kenneth was a threat to his own children, and maybe they co-signed and backed him up. No, I've never had any issues with him being out of his son or daughter, things of that nature. They probably did their research. I know they did, because they wouldn't allow that child to be in his presence, even though that's his son. So yeah, a lot of states, they don't care. This is why you got to be careful if you decide to have a child from a man that's a registered sex offender, because he may not, depending on what state you in, the judge may not grant him access to be around his own children. Okay, see, Nikki has the money. A lot of us ain't got that kind of money. And even with the money, she's still limited because her money cannot buy the laws off. You get what I'm saying? This is a national guideline for sex offender registration notification known as SORNA. SORNA is the one who establishes these rules and regulation. SORNA it is basically the stands for Sex Offender Registration and Notification Act, which was started by Adam Walsh. I remember, I don't know if y'all remember the show, America's Next Criminal, or with John, with Adam Walsh, Adam John Walsh, or John Adam Walsh, whatever his name. Yeah, it was Adam Walsh. Didn't mean to butcher the man's name, but yes, it's Adam Walsh. And I remember when he used to do the show. What's the name of that show he did? I know it's one of those shows we used to watch way back in the day, and no, my mother used to watch it a lot. And when his son got taken from him, his son got abducted, and they found out America's Most Wanted. That's what it was. Yeah, and they still never found the killer of his son to this day. And he took that energy, that painful experience, and he used that to create his own show, host his own show, to where he talks about criminals that are on the run for committing crimes like, raping people's children or molesting people's children or whatever. He was a strong advocate for that because of the loss to his son being abducted and murdered, and to this day they never found out who did it, which is a really, really sad thing. So my heart goes out to Mr. Adam Walsh on that. But he was the one who proposed this, and this was based on the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act, which provides a new comprehensive set of minimum standards for sex offender registration and notification in the United States. So thanks to Mr. Adam Walsh, this law came about and it was implemented. And this was to protect children from sex offenders and making sure these sex offenders have so many restrictions up the ass to where they have less chances of reoffending, and it also protects the children because children back then did not have a voice. Children back then, things were done to them and offenders got off. Only did like a couple of years or so. So this law came about to protect the children and to lessen the chance of reoffenders being able to reoffend. I'm not going to go into all that because I don't want to bore y'all to death. But if you're interested in it, it is called the SORNA. For those of you who want to do more research, SORNA, SORNA Act. Or you can Google the Sex Offender Registration and Notification Act. It's very, very interesting for anybody who's involved with a registered sex offender. You have a relative or a loved one who committed this act. You need to realize how much rules and regulations and how delicate it is that they can't be around your grandchildren. They can't be around their own children. A lot of y'all are not understanding how deep this is when you have a registered sex offender in your presence. Do your research and, stop thinking it's no big deal because it is. Now, I want to go back to the special conditions of a sex offender. Any change of residence must be approved by a community supervision officer. Does not matter if Nikki wants to move into a brand new 10-bedroom mansion. She has to make sure her husband's community supervision officer approves of it. Okay? 9 times out of 10, usually they approve of it, long as it's so many feet away from a school. It's so many feet away from places where there's a lot of children. Nikki would not be able to move near a playground. She would not be able to move near a place where a lot of children are present. She wouldn't be able to move near a church because kids go to church every Sunday with their parents. That's how delicate and deep it is. But she has the money, so I'm sure she'll probably put them in an island far, far away to where she can make sure her husband is accommodated. Much luck to her on that because that's very difficult and complicated. I want to be able to move where the hell I want to move at, and I have to make sure ain't no schools nearby, no churches nearby, no school buses. That is just too damn difficult. But when you have the money, I guess it's not as difficult. Next, the offender shall have no contact with the victim. He cannot reach out to the woman, to that young lady who he sexually assaulted. Now, even though, granted, that was years ago because he's 42, that happened when he was 16. Even though she's a full-grown woman, she can be married. She could have forgiven him. He still better never, ever, ever reach out to her or else he's going straight back to prison. He better not have nobody come for her. Nikki better not send her goons. And if they can prove it, she going to prison and her husband going to prison. So that's how deep it is. Because I know Nikki can sometimes, depend on how much people piss off, especially when it comes to her husband. She's very protective of him, which most wives are very protective of their husband. But she better not send her goons. She better not send nobody after the victim because she wants to protect her husband, or she feel like everybody's going in on her husband because of what happened to the victim. And in her mind, she feel like it's the victim's fault because the victim recently came out and spoke. And was stating what she experienced. So hopefully Nikki let it be and she doesn't push the issue. Can have no contact, no correspondence, no telephone, no electric communication, nothing, zero zilch, unless third party except under circumstances approved in advance and in writing by the court. You have to have like a third wheel or somebody or a lawyer or something like that if the judge approves of it, if they were to have any type of contact. Offender employment must be approved by a community supervision officer. Well, we know that Kenneth Pedophile Petty, he ain't never got to work for the rest of his life. His wife is a millionaire, so he don't never have to report that he works anywhere. I don't know how fun that's going to be after a while, though, sitting in a big old mansion and you restricted. You want to be out among the world. You don't want to be bunk up under your wife and your son day in and day out. You want your freedom. As much as I love my husband, we can't be in each other's presence every single damn day, bunked up under each other, and he's restricted. He can't go out. He can't do this. He can't do that. It's just very complicated. Like I said, the relationship looked like one way on the red carpet, but I guarantee you, behind closed doors is a totally different story. It's not that fun and exciting like y'all think. Next, except as authorized by the Court of Community Supervision Officer, the offender shall not create, possess, access, or control any type of photograph, video, rendering, or digital imagery of any minor. In other words, if the PO comes over, there better not be no pictures in his smartphone or in his internet, email, anything pertaining to a child. One picture and he's done. Even if his sister or somebody in his family sends him a picture of his niece, sends him a picture of, his own girl cousins or something, PO find it, she's not asking no questions. Believe me, all of these sex offenders, they are given a list of rules and regulations that they got to sign off on. All that playing crazy and dumb, or I didn't know, I thought I could. They're not playing that shit under any circumstances with these registered sex offenders. They're not going to play the radio, all right? Kenneth Petty, they have explained and made it very clearly and thoroughly to him. Believe me, his community supervision officer broke it down and they had him to sign off on it. So he can't play crazy like he don't know what he can and can't do. So he can't have no photos, no videos, no none of that simple stuff that we have in our phones and stuff. My husband got plenty of pictures of his grandchildren and stuff like that. Had he been a registered sex offender, he wouldn't have been able to have any of that stuff in his phone. Now let's move forward. Offenders shall not date or marry anyone who has children under the age of 18. Ha! Interesting. Nikki didn't have any children, so he dodged that bullet. Unless approved in advance and in writing by the community supervision officer in consultation with the treatment provider or the sentencing court. So there's exceptions to every rules, but again, it is based on what the court and what kind of judge you got. You got one of them strict ass judges who really don't like sexual offenders. She probably not going to spare him no mercy. You feel me? Offenders are required to notify any such person of his or her criminal history. No matter what, Petty has to notify anybody that comes in contact with him. They have to be aware of his criminal history. Something comes up and something goes down and that person says, well, I didn't know. He didn't make me aware that he was a registered sex offender. He can go back to prison for life. This is walking a thin, fine line. I doubt Nikki knows any of this, even with all her millions. She don't know. She don't care. She ain't trying to find out because she ain't trying to accept it for what it really is. But for the rest of you, I'm telling you ladies, be careful marrying and wifing, having babies from these registered sex offenders. Because your husband is going to have to let everybody know. And let's face it, it's stuff you're going to go through in your marriage you don't want everybody knowing. You don't want people knowing every little detail, all your bad and good. Certain things you just don't want people knowing. But guess what? When you are a sex offender, all bets are off. You don't have no goddamn privacy. You got to let your neighbors know, hey, I'm a registered sex offender. Because if they miss and bring their child over there, and that PO or somebody finds out, or children they talk, oh, I met Nicki Minaj's husband, Mr. Petty, he's a really nice guy. God forbid, don't let it miss and go viral. It get in the wrong person's ear, oh my gosh. It's curtains, you can forget it. Next, offenders shall not possess or subscribe to any sexually oriented or sexually stimulating material to include male computer or television, nor patronize any place where such material or entertainment is available. In other words, Nicki Minaj's husband better not be caught near the strip club or anything sexually that has sexual activity. Now, I know y'all get it. I know y'all saying, but it's grown women at the club, Mocha. That's adults. It does not matter. Once you become a registered sex offender, they don't want you around anything sexually that they feel like is going to stimulate you, make you get urges. See, y'all don't think about stuff this deep, but y'all out here wifing these sex offenders, having children, and not understanding he cannot be anywhere sexually oriented. And this is what I mean by places or entertainment is available. Meaning the strip club is one of those sexually oriented places. But guess what? He can't be there. You're not going to hear about Kenneth Petty in the club making it rain. And we know Nikki loves the strip club. She loves to tip the strippers. That's always been her little thing. Guess what? His ass better not be there. That's how deep it is. That's how deep it is. That's why I'm breaking down all of the elements. Because I'm tired of y'all idolizing these Hollywood relationships. It's no joke. They can't go to the porn club together. I mean, they can't like go to like porn theaters, things like that. It was something else I was getting ready to say. That, you know, like, okay, like for instance, every once in a while, me and my husband to go to the place like the Sunset Novelties or the Joker Novelties. You know, where they have the sex cream and the dildos and all this other stuff or whatever. It's funny as hell to go to them kind of places. When you look at the people that go in there, these old elderly couples, girl, I'm telling y'all, I be laughing my ass off because some of these people look creepy as hell and be picking up dildos and stuff. But anyway, sometimes I go in there just because I want a good laugh. He better not be in there. That's something all couples do. You sex shop. Y'all like to go to a sex shop, a novelty place. He better not be caught up in there. It says he can't even possess or subscribe. He can't have no Playboy magazines. No sexual magazines. If a probation officer come over there and catch a porn tape that him and Nikki was looking at the other night, he's done. It's curtains. That's how deep it is. But y'all idolizing these Hollywood relationships. And it's not Nikki's fault because I know she's uneducated. She don't know any of this. She don't want to know any of this. And this type of information, she wouldn't even consider it as valuable. She'll get offended by it. Sisters need to be aware of this. He can't get mail. The mailman that better not put a sex magazine, porn magazine, a Playboy magazine. It's so bad, even in Victoria's Secret magazine, anything with lingerie, even though we know it's not sexual, he cannot have access to it because they feel like the sexual offender, they don't want them being stimulated by anything that's showing any nude or anything. They don't want them having access to that. They don't want them to be sexually stimulated. Even though we know we're adults and that's just an adult thing to do. You watch porn, you look at dirty magazines. They're not playing that with registered sex offenders. I don't know who the hell calling me. It's these stupid damn voting people. I done already voted. I don't know why they keep blowing up my phone. I done voted. Do I have to screenshot a picture of my goddamn Georgia voter sticker? Because I'm tired of these voters calling me. And then you know what they'll do? They'll talk to you like y'all the best of friends. Well, hi, what's up, Mocha? How are you today? I'm like, I'm fine. I'm thinking it's my boss, something from the job calling me. Oh, what is this so-and-so? Are you going to make sure you got down vote? I'm like, really? Anyway, back to lesson at hand. So he cannot have any mail. You know, internet is out. He can't be on Instagram looking at Insta thought pictures. None of that. As I mentioned it before, that's why y'all notice Kenneth Petty, he's not all over Instagram. He don't have his own Instagram account. He don't have his own Twitter account. You're never going to catch him with one. You're going to always see Nikki posing with him. And peep this. When she takes pictures with him, right? Y'all notice it's always a background like they're in her house or something. You notice they're never really out when she's taking a picture of him. If she is taking a picture with him out, you better believe they wasn't near no goddamn children. And it's going to be hard to go places where there's children constantly. I'm telling y'all don't understand how critical this relationship is. You and your husband, marriage is. You and your husband, y'all want to decide, let's go out to Carrabba's. Let's go out for pizza. Let's go out. And as soon as y'all go, there's kids sitting at the table. Babe, you're going to have to wait in a limo. I'm going to have to order our food to go. I'm telling you, her marriage, she's in a miserable mess. I don't care how much she smiles. Little things y'all take for granted. Like I said, you and your wife, you and your husband can go out for dinner. Y'all can take your grandkids to Chuck E. Cheese. He cannot do none of that. Y'all can't even go to church one Sunday. And I know because of the COVID, but when the things eventually get back to normal, it's going to be like him or her still going to be quarantining because he can't do shit. It ain't going to be because of COVID. It's going to be because he's a registered sex offender. That's why you don't see him all over the place. She'll post pictures with him, but she does it in a low-key, discreet way. She knows he can't be plastered all over the place like that. Which sucks, because when you're married, you want to be able to share your love with the world. Now, another thing is offenders shall not utilize 900 telephone numbers. Neither shall they rent a post office box without permission from a community supervision officer. No, you cannot have no 900 P.O. boxes because they feel like you will use that for the wrong purposes. You will be getting dirty magazines through your P.O. box. You'll be getting child pictures and porno tapes. They're not playing with these registered sex offenders. You have to have a valid mailbox to the location where you live. Because guess what? Your probation officer needs to have access to go and check whatever the hell he or she pleases when they come and do their visits. Because they have to dig all up in your business. That's their way of making sure that you are doing what you're supposed to do and you're not stepping outside of the guidelines. Now, the next thing is offenders shall abide by any curfew imposed by a community supervision officer. Nikki cannot be out. Her husband cannot be out 2, 3, 4 in the morning with her when she's doing the show. He better have his ass right back in our multimillionaire mansion at 7, 8 o'clock, whatever his curfew is. He can't be in a VIP turned up, popping bottles, stuff like that. That's another thing I wanted to also address. Most sex offenders are not allowed to drink. You know why? Because they feel like when a sex offender gets drunk, he's liable to put himself at risk and put himself in a situation in which he's under the influence of alcohol, which can cause him to sexually molest somebody's child. Because let's face it, when we are under the influence, we do things that we're not supposed to do. And they're definitely, the law does not trust the mindset of a registered sex offender that is under the influence of alcohol. So guess what? He cannot purchase, possess, or consume any alcoholic beverages, substances, or mind-altering drugs. So he better not smoke weed. He can't do none of that shit. If he does do it, he better be slick. And he better be fast. And he better not have no residue, no smell, no nothing. Because if his P.O. come over and catch it, it's curtains. Oh, they already mentioned that later on. So I'll talk more about it when I get to that point. So you got to have a curfew. He can't turn up with his millionaire wife. He cannot be out 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Not going to happen. Next, offenders shall attend and actively participate in sex offender evaluation and treatment at a program approved by a community supervision officer. Offenders will abide by the rules of the treatment program and successfully complete the program to the satisfaction of the community supervision officer and the treatment provider. Offenders are responsible for all fees associated with the evaluation and treatment. So 9 out of 10, Nikki's paying for all of that. He has to get counseling. He has to get treatment. As I stated, I don't think a sex offender could be rehabilitated, but I guess something is better than nothing. I guess they feel like they got to put him in the program to make sure he's getting some type of help. Not only that, you know the law, everything is about $1. They want to make money off of you. Okay? The community supervision officer is going to make money. These treatment programs are going to make money. These instructors, these doctors, these physicians, everybody's making money. So at the end of the day, it's more about making money off of you than actually treating you from being a sexual predator. Because again, you cannot rehabilitate that. And they all got to be paid for. It's about $1. So 9 out of 10, Nikki loves her husband. So I'm sure she's paying for every goddamn thing he has to, every treatment program he has to attend. Offenders shall submit at your expense. Again, it's about the money, 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 money. To any psychological or physiological assessment at the direction of a community supervision officer or treatment provider. This includes a polygraph, or I ain't even going to try to pronounce that. Plethysmograph, plethysmograph. I don't know what the hell that is, but I did have to do a polygraph before becoming a correctional officer. I had to sit and do one. I felt like I was being interrogated, all the questions they were asking me before they hired me. But anyway, that has to be done at your expense. 9 times out of 10, you know they're going to refer you to the most expensive ass places to get it done. They're not going to let you go somewhere where you can get it done for like $10, $15. This is for them to make sure they mentally keeping up with your psyche, making sure you're being honest, making sure they're psychologically keeping up with where you are mentally, that you still are not capable of going out there and reoffending. Next, offenders shall sign a release of information to allow a community supervision officer, a designee, to communicate with other professionals involved in their treatment program. This will include a release of information to the therapist of the victim. Yes, anyone, any professionals that are involved with you as part of your treatment as a sexual offender, they got to sign off and say, okay, we know he's a registered sex offender, but so far he's still in his right state of mind. We don't think, even though he's going to always have to be a registered sex offender, but for the most part, so far he's maintaining. He doesn't appear that, he's going to go out there and reoffend. But again, this is not to spare them leniency. This is just to keep up with their well-being again. And like I said, a lot of people in your business, this is the Cigna part. Like I said, your community supervision officer and other professionals, they all have to, be involved with your treatment program. This will include a release of information to the therapist of the victim. So if the victim, the person who he molested, sexually assaulted, they will also be notified of the sexual offender's treatment progress. Is it the same? Is it the worst? Whatever. So Kenneth Petty, every time he gets treatment or goes through these programs, the victim's therapist is going to be notified as well. That's how deep this is. Y'all idolizing these Hollywood relationships. Offenders shall submit to a search of their person, property, residence, or vehicle any time of the day or night with or without consent, or a search warrant whenever requested by a community supervision officer or any other peace officer. Other words, they don't have to ask your permission to check a goddamn thing. You talking about no privacy, invasion of privacy. That's how deep it gets when you want to have a child and be married to a sex offender. They can come to Nicki Minaj's mansion anytime they want. They can check her Bentley, pink Lamborghini anytime they want. They don't need a search warrant. You are a registered sex offender. You don't have no privacy. You don't have no rights. They want to come in at 3, 4 in the morning, they could. And God forbid if you have one of them nasty ass ones who enjoy their job a little too damn much, they'll come over there just for the hell of it. Just because they don't like you. That's how deep it gets. That's why women, you got to be careful when you wifing and marrying and having babies from these convicted felons, registered sex offenders. And I mentioned this before, but I'm going to reiterate on it again. Offenders shall not purchase, possess, or consume any alcoholic beverages, controlled substances, or mind-altering drugs except pursuant to legal doctor's prescription. He cannot be popping bottles of Cristal with Nikki. He cannot be having no Ciroc, no Hennessy, no Apple Crown Royal. None of that. If he does, he better do it at home and hope his P.O. don't bust up over there. Because remember, they come on there anytime they want. They smell it on his breath. He gone. It's curtains. Offenders shall submit to, and if necessary, pay for breath, urine, blood, or saliva. I can't read today, y'all. Salvia tests for analysis for the possible presence of prohibited drugs or alcohol. P.O. want to come over there at 2 in the morning. I want you to piss in this cup. You better do it. You decline it, you're going to prison. I want you to take this breathalyzer. This how deep it is. Next, offenders will keep a driving log and make it available to his or her community supervision officer as requested. Oh, hell, I didn't know that. You mean to tell me every time you drive and make a move some goddamn where, you got to keep a driving log? And you know what? I'm not surprised because, again, as a registered sex offender, they got to know where the hell you go at all times. They need to know, are you going places you should not be going? Where there's children, where there's underage young females, strip club, the porn house, the sex tape, sex shops, novelties. Because none of them, the places you're not supposed to be any goddamn way. So that is their way of keeping up with you. And definitely don't lie and falsify, because if you write you was somewhere and I find out you was not where you said you were, it's curtains. Officers, I read that driving law. Offenders will never drive alone. especially through parks, playgrounds, school zones, or other areas where children are commonly known to be present. This is what Nicki Minaj married. This is the part she's not sharing with y'all. Yeah, this comes with the territory. You got to be with somebody. Makes sense. They're not trusting you having to be in the areas of these places by yourself, where you have full advantage to do what you want because nobody's there to stop you. They're not doing that. And that's pretty hard, because when you're a grown-ass man, grown-ass woman, sometimes I just want to get up and goddamn go to Starbucks. I know children are going to be at Starbucks. Guess he just have to go through the drive-thru every time he wants something to eliminate the chances of being out and getting caught around children. Offenders will not hitchhike or pick up hitchhikers. Can't offer rides. Can't get rides, which we know that'll never be an issue for him because Nicki has several cars. But still, this is what I'm saying. There's just so much that comes along with the territory of this. Being married to, having children, being in a relationship with registered sex offenders. Ladies, I advise you, please do not be thirsty. Do your research. Realize how much this can really complicate your life because of all the restrictions he has. Guess what? That's going to also restrict her because she's married to him. She's not going to feel right going to places with children and knowing her husband can't be there. When they have he has his first birthday party. Everything's going to have to be done at that mansion. Everything's going to have to be done, not in the public eye. I really don't think she thought this through. And I know a lot of people are going to probably think that I'm a hater for doing this content. I'm shading her, but I'm just speaking in reality. The man is a registered sex offender. There is no allegedly. It's a fact. It's been put out there. Okay? So again, ladies, be mindful when you decide to get up with these men that are registered sex offenders, that are convicts, have records of sexual misconduct. Please be very careful. There's no future with them, because a lot of y'all are not millionaires like myself. So you may not have the advantages like Nicki has. She can keep him in the mansion. She can always, if he can't leave, she has butlers and people who she can pay to pick up his food and treat him like royalty. But at the end of the day, certain stuff you just want to do your damn self. Things that money cannot buy. Nobody don't want to have to keep. Sometimes I just want to go out and buy my own damn burger. I don't want DoorDash always bringing me my food. I'm picky. They may forget my extra tartar sauce. They may forget my extra shrimp sauce. Stuff I like that the Uber driver, the DoorDash driver, Uber Eats may not remember. Sometimes you just want to get out of the house. You just want to do your thing. Honey, time will tell how far this relationship goes, how much this marriage progresses. But I really think behind closed doors, it's a lot of stress. And my thing is for him, I know it's aggravating him knowing you with a woman of high status. You should be able to do what you want, have what you want. And because of your record, you will never really be able to fully have that privilege. So anyway, I'm going to shut it down. Don't forget, ladies, please subscribe to my Mocha's Ladies Lounge. I have not been uploading a lot of content there because nobody has been subscribing. That is my channel specifically for ladies. It's a lot of topics I just want to cover with y'all. And I don't want to do it here in this space. I want to do it over there. So I need y'all to subscribe. For those of you who need cable, buy y'all Amazon sticks so I can hook y'all up. Get you over 12,000 channels for only $26 a month. Up to 2 devices. That's including free pay-per-view events. I don't know why y'all letting these cable providers, these satellite dish network companies, they are highway robbery. I got the hookup. Hit me up, email me. I got you. I can get you excellent live streaming quality cable. Not no bootleg with somebody walking across the screens like them old DVDs we used to buy from the bootleg DVD guy on our little street corners and stuff like that. I got the hookup. So if you're interested in getting superior live stream cable, up to 2 devices, $26 a month. Matter of fact, if you sign up today, the first 3 months I will knock off $6 and only charge you $20 a month. So hit me up. I want to help y'all save some money in 2021. Stop paying these cable companies $100, $200, $300 for some cable, okay? Also, for those who support my movement, please make sure you cash out your girl at $DymondGyrl, DymondGyrl. Other than that, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down. I have been here long enough. I'm ready to go get me some food, hunty. I am starving. So anyway, it is your diva in knowledge, Lady Mocha. Remember, I'm gonna always pour you a cup of truth. I'm gonna always break you off a slice of knowledge. Y'all be blessed. Take care. Bye.